follow-ups to the greatest hits. This is Trash Can Tidbits.
Hey there, everyone. I'm your host for Trash Can Tidbits, Beaton. It's been a few weeks since I came back from Anthrocon, and this episode was understandably put on hold as I was fighting off COVID. The good news is I'm finally in the clear and ready to bring you some more fun trivia. Last time, I asked the question, what did Harvey Stephens do during his audition that got him the part of Damien in The Omen? The answer is, he attacked Richard Donner. At Donner's own request, he instructed all the boys who auditioned to come at him. Most of them either didn't want to or held back because their mothers wouldn't allow it. But when Harvey did it, he went completely crazy on Donner, punching, scratching, and even kicking him in the nuts. Once it was all over and Harvey went back to being a sweet, angelic child, Donner immediately hired him. Moral is, don't let your guard down around kids. Shush. Now with that taken care of, let's get started with fact number 1. Did you know that the horror movie An American Werewolf in London almost didn't give a work permit to one of its leading actors? As is the case when making movies abroad, work permits need to be granted to any foreign actors and/or personnel. Director John Landis requested 4 permits, 1 for himself and the other 3 for makeup artist Rick Baker and the 2 leading actors, David Naughton and Griffin Dunne. The first 3 permits were granted by the British government, but questioned 1 for Dunne, noting that there were plenty of American actors living in the UK the production could use. It wasn't until Landis put his foot down and threatened to relocate and retitle the movie to An American Werewolf in Paris that the British government relented and gave Griffin Dunne his permit. Ironically, a sequel co-written by Landis called An American Werewolf in Paris would be made almost 2 decades later. Fact 2. Did you know that Raiders of the Lost Ark had one shot that required a bit of tampering? The first scene where the characters arrive in Cairo, Egypt had a gorgeous wide shot of the town's rooftops. However, because the movie is set in the 1930s, the real location, which was actually filmed in Tunisia, not Egypt, had hundreds of TV antennas coming out of the rooftops. The film crew eventually got permission from the government, who then worked tirelessly to temporarily remove them, film the shot, and then put all of them back. The same case could have repeated itself for Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade when Indy goes to Venice, Italy. TV antennas were also present all over the roofs of the Grand Canal, but Steven Spielberg was reassured by the film's cinematographer, Douglas Slocum, that they would not be seen on camera because they would be well out of range. Fact 3. Did you know that Steven Spielberg's version of West Side Story was one of the few movies where composer John Williams was not involved? Almost every movie Spielberg has made has had a musical score by the legendary composer of Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Schindler's List, Jaws, and so on. West Side Story, however, was adapted from Leonard Bernstein's Broadway score and conducted by Gustavo Dudamel, the current musical director of the Los Angeles Philharmonic Orchestra. However, even though John Williams wasn't involved in Spielberg's West Side Story, he still has a tie to the musical. He was a featured studio musician for the original 1961 film. He played the piano. This was almost a decade or so before he became a world-renowned film composer in his own right. Spielberg's version of West Side Story would only be the 3rd movie in which John Williams was not involved. Fact 4. Did you know that Bentley the Turtle from the Sly Cooper franchise has some backstory that indicates he may not actually be an orphan? While Sly and Murray are confirmed to be in fact orphans, according to the series' strategy guide, Bentley does or did have parents and quite a few siblings. It's said that with him being nearsighted, he wandered away from his family at a very young age and eventually got too far away from them to be found, and then he ended up in the orphanage where he met Sly and Murray. Though the strategy guide confirms this, it was never explored in the games themselves. It would have been interesting for Bentley to have a side quest or a game of his own to try and find his family. Fact 5. Did you know that 2 of the main cast members of Terminator 2 were actively involved in the making of the tie-in arcade game? The Chicago-based Midway was one of the first video game companies to work alongside the production of a major motion picture. They were even given access to props and animatronics by the legendary Stan Winston to be used as in-game digitized sprites. As for the actual cast members from the movie who provided motion capture, Edward Furlong, who played John Connor, and Robert Patrick, who played the T-1000, played their characters in the game. Though Arnold Schwarzenegger and Linda Hamilton didn't participate in the making of the game, they did use Arnold's stunt double and Linda's twin sister, Leslie, who also played the T-1000 when it was briefly disguised as Sarah Connor. The success of the Terminator 2 arcade game was a big hit and put Midway on the map, later utilizing their digitized graphics system for further games, including the Mortal Kombat series. Fact 6. Did you know that Elastigirl from The Incredibles almost wasn't called that because DC owned the rights to a similar character? DC Comics, known for characters like Batman and Superman among many others, has a character named Elastigirl, spelled with a hyphen, who's a member of the DC line The Doom Patrol and has identical abilities to stretch her body. She even has a similar civilian name to the Pixar character, Rita Farr over Helen Parr from The Incredibles. DC would eventually allow Pixar the use of the name of The Incredibles without the hyphen, only on the condition that the character in the movie would be referred to on official merchandise as Mrs. Incredible. The DC version of Elastigirl has since been portrayed in a few animated series, including appearances on Teen Titans, Batman the Brave and the Bold, and Young Justice. She's also appeared in several DC live-action shows such as Titans and the Doom Patrol TV series. Fact 7. Did you know that the game that became the American version of Super Mario Bros. 2 was originally a promotion for a Japanese festival? The game, Yume Kojo Doki Doki Panic, was made as a collaboration between Nintendo and the Fuji Television Company to be used as a promotion for a festival called the Dream Factory. The mascots for the festival, the Arabian-style characters of Imogen and his 3 family members, were playable characters in the game, and the various props included masks and other objects, a reference to the Dream Factory Festival. When the time came to release a sequel to Super Mario Bros. 2, the original Japanese release on the Famicom Disk System was too hard for American gamers. Nintendo ended up taking Doki Doki Panic, replaced the game's original characters with Mario, Luigi, Princess Peach, and Toad, giving each of them their defining gameplay traits in the process, and released it in the US as Super Mario Bros. 2. The original Japanese version of the game would later be released on the Super Nintendo as part of the Super Mario All-Stars compilation as The Lost Levels. Fact 8. Did you know that 2 actors long associated with Superman have cameos in Superman Returns? Appearing at the beginning of the film is Noelle Neal as Gertrude Vanderwerth, the elderly woman who, on her deathbed, Lex Luthor tricks into willing her estate and assets over to him. Neal was the first actress to play Lois Lane in live action. Joan Alexander first played her in the original radio show and the Charles Fleischer animated cartoons. Neal first played Lois in the 1940s serials and again in the Superman TV series in the 1950s, starting in the 3rd season. Also making a cameo from the 1950s series is Jack Larson, the show's Jimmy Olsen, playing Bo the bartender. Larson gets to interact in a short scene with both Brandon Routh as Clark Kent and Sam Huntington, his Jimmy Olsen successor. Fact 9. Did you know that when Winona Ryder was first offered the role of Joyce Byers on Stranger Things, she didn't even know what Netflix or the idea of streaming was? She considered herself a late bloomer when it came to current movie or TV distribution, but once she was caught up and the plot of the show was explained to her, she ended up drawing from her own real-life experience to play her part of a frantic mother searching for her missing son. In 1993, a 12-year-old girl named Polly Kloss was kidnapped from a slumber party in Ryder's hometown of Petaluma, California, and the actress herself participated in the search efforts and offered a $200,000 reward for information and the child's safe return. Sadly, Polly was later to have been found murdered, and a devastated Ryder ended up dedicating her 1994 film Little Women to the child. It was Polly's favorite book. Ryder drew upon this heartbreaking experience while playing Joyce Byers, and in the process led to a career renaissance. Fact 10. Did you know that the 2 atomic bombs built during World War II were named after characters in classic 1930s mystery novels? The bomb, known as Fat Man, dropped on Nagasaki, was named after the character Caspar Gutman, a man of large size who was an antagonist of the 1930 Dashiell Hammett story The Maltese Falcon. The movie version of The Maltese Falcon, released in 1941, features actor Sidney Greenstreet as Gutman, an actor known at the time for his rotund physique. The other atomic bomb, Little Boy, dropped on Hiroshima, was not named for anybody in particular, but was rather an allusion to the Dashiell Hammett detective series The Thin Man, also made into a popular series of films throughout the 1930s and 40s. Both bombs were obviously named for their sizes, Fat Man for its big round shape and Little Boy for its long and thin shape. The fact that the military used codenames from popular mystery stories ensured that the development would be kept a real-life mystery from the general public before they were even used. And here's today's trivia question. This one is for you Agatha Christie fans out there. Murder on the Orient Express is considered one of Christie's most beloved mysteries. Its big revelation involves the case of the murdered child of a renowned pilot. In case it wasn't obvious, Christie loosely based the story on the kidnapping and murder of Charles Lindbergh Jr., the son of the famous pilot Lindbergh Sr. You may not be aware of this, but Orient Express was only one of 2 stories that Agatha Christie loosely based on a real event. My question to you is, what was the second Agatha Christie book to be based on true events? And there we go for this episode. I hope you liked what I brought for you this month, and stay tuned for more fun trivia and other stuff. And as always, please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and ring the bell to be notified for future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.